Representative Bates, is that you?
It is.
Would you please give the members here your name, residence, and status?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, my name is David Bates, I'm State Representative from Rockingham District 4, representing the towns of Salem and Wyndham. I'm here to introduce House Bill 437, and the purpose of this bill is to restore to our marriage statutes the pre-existing language that was in place before the last legislature redefined marriage to include homosexual relationships. Mr. Chairman, as you know, the House Republican leadership has already made it clear that the main priority this session is to restore fiscal responsibility to New Hampshire by balancing the budget, creating a more business-friendly environment to promote job creation, and if possible, providing tax relief to our citizens and businesses. And as I have previously stated, I support leadership's focus on reducing spending, reforming our state's pension system, addressing education adequacy and funding, and the other pressing needs that are the priorities of our party this year. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I recommend with leadership that this bill be retained in your committee and acted upon next year after the budget and these other pressing matters have been addressed. I also want to make it very clear that next year this legislation will be a priority. Our party platform says in Section 8 on the family regarding preserving marriage and family, it says, we realize the family's most important function is to raise the next generation of Americans. We place our highest priority on promoting and preserving the family as the most important institution of human development by recognizing marriage as the legal union between one man and one woman. That is our party's platform, and this bill clearly establishes clearly represents that Republican position on this issue. And I have been assured by leadership that this effort to restore traditional marriage in New Hampshire will have our leadership's full support next year when the time comes to act on that legislation. It is my expectation that the 14 or so members, Republican members of this committee, will honor leadership's request to retain this bill, and therefore, because of that, and in the interest of time that you've asked us to be brief, I will refrain from further comments. I had lots of things that I would have said, but since the decision on this issue is going to be deferred to next year, I'll reserve my comments until that time, and trust that the committee will honor our leader's request.
Thank you. Will you take questions?
Yes.
Are there questions from any member of the committee? There appears that there are, yes, Representative Watkins.
Typically, bills come before us to fix a problem or
Would you, excuse me, would you suspend, would you pass the microphone down to Representative Watkins?
Typically, bills come before us to fix a problem in state law or address a harm. Would you elaborate on what harm this bill addresses?
We have a constitutional Republican form of government. The Declaration of Independence makes it very clear that all just actions of the government are derived by the consent of the governed. Thomas Jefferson said that it is the will of the people that makes law obligatory. And I could go on and on mentioning what I trust that you know, that it's a basic foundational principle of our government that our laws and just actions of our government are based upon the consent of the governed. This law that was passed in 2009 and went into effect last January is, in my belief, not with the consent of the people of New Hampshire. It has been very clearly demonstrated across the country in 31 states, every single place where citizens have had the opportunity to vote on the question of the definition of marriage. In every case, without exception, the people have voted that marriage will be between a man and a woman only.
Follow
So do you believe that the vote of a majority can remove the rights and freedoms of a minority?
Let me say this. I expect everyone to speak. I expect everyone to respect other people's viewpoints. Let's not have any clapping or yelling. It's just going to take that much longer. And, well, I said the piece. If the representative has said that he, I guess you don't know, you're not qualified to answer that.
Oh, I didn't say anything like that.
Well, please answer me.
The past 2 years, I sat over in this section underneath that portrait of Daniel Webster. Every time I entered the State House, I'd walk along the path and pass by the statue that's front and center of this people's house. I draw a lot of inspiration from Daniel Webster. He's one of the greatest statesmen I think that our country has ever produced. In the year before his death, in 1851, he was invited to give an address at the nation's capital at the laying of the cornerstone 58 years after President Washington had laid the original cornerstone. They were expanding the capital at that point. On the 75th anniversary of our nation's independence, he was asked to speak on that dual occasion. He mentioned that he started off talking about the 3 basic principles of our American system of government. And I won't take the time to go through all of them, but the second of those principles is that our government and our laws are based upon the will of the majority. And so, yes, all the laws that we have, whatever they are the expressed will of the majority of the citizens.
If my memory serves me well, I believe racial desegregation and civil rights was brought about by governmental action, by Supreme Court action, and not a popular vote. Would you agree if there was a popular vote in Mississippi, blacks might still not have equal rights?
I don't think I would agree that would happen today. If that's what you're referring to now. Certainly in the past, the vote may have gone that way, but I don't believe it would today.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much, Representative Bates. Would you give us your copy that you read? Maybe put it in the file.
I'll get you a copy of it, sure.
Thank you.